Hello class, this is a continuation of the video that covered how to critically analyze a poem. This video will cover how to build your outline from the interpretation to finding sources in the evaluation process. And I'm going to show you two databases that I highly suggest that you use for this assignment. So the basic structure of this paper for the poetry side should look similar to this. Your introduction should provide biographical information about the author, followed by your claim. Now remember, your claim should be your interpretation of the poem, and then the body paragraphs, you're going to focus on the literary elements that helps to explain how you come to that interpretation. So again, your claim is going to be your interpretation, and then your 3 to 4 body paragraphs should focus on specific literary elements that help to answer your interpretation. And you will also use your primary and secondary sources to help validate your reasoning. Because remember, what makes this an argument is the fact that you come to see the poem in a specific way. And now it's your task is to show your targeted audience how you come to that conclusion. And in order to do that, you must rely on your primary source, which will be your poem, and literary criticism by other people who have also analyzed the poems to validate your reasoning. Now remember, it should be your interpretation, not what you have read, because if you're just summarizing what other people have said, then that is not an analysis. And finally, your conclusion will be your evaluation. That's the 5th step to the whole entire critical reading process. Now here's an example of a more detailed outline using the poem that I analyzed for these videos. My introduction again is going to establish my ethos by knowing about the author's biographical information. Will also help you to understand what the poet is trying to say. Authors write what they know, what they've experienced. So it is always important to know something about the author. And then followed by the claim. And here's my claim for this poem. This is how I have interpreted the poem. The fluidity of Theodore Roth's poem, My Papa's Waltz, reveals the unfeigned love between a father and a son is eternal. And that's what I believe his message is. That this this rawness of love between father and son is lasting. It never ends. It never dies. I will use the poem's rhythm, specifically the waltz rhythm and the disruption of the waltz, symbolism, what the waltz could symbolize, what it represents, and of course the mother's countenance. That's a very important symbol to me, what I find to be interesting, because again, the mother's countenance is she's not a part of this this play, this fun between a father and son, again showing the relationship, the bond between a father and son, but also her countenance is somewhat symbolic of how readers and other people may see the relationship between this father and son. And word choice, I will use 2 paragraphs. That's why you see an A and a B. Here I will talk about the negative connotation and why Theodore Roth decided to use negative connotations primarily, and then the positive connotations. I will end with that because I think that is the most important aspect to the poem. So you always want to end with your most strongest point, and then I'll conclude with my evaluation, and I will show you the evaluation in just a second. But again, each paragraph, each letter will be a different paragraph that help to explain how I come to my interpretation. I will use secondary sources that will help to support my reasoning, not make it, but to support what I am trying to say. Now here's my evaluation. Remember, the evaluation will be in the conclusion, but the evaluation should tie everything back together. And I'm going to go back to this idea of stylistic choices. Again, the rhythm, the rhyme scheme, the word choice, all of that plays a part into making this a beautiful poem. The poet's stylistic choices illustrates the irony of social standards and the complexity of lasting paternal love. And again, social standards goes back to the countenance of the mother, the father coming home drunk. He's a hard-working man, but even with all of that, even with how people may perceive him, he takes time to do this waltz with his son, making this a very beautiful poem about love and about understanding. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to find sources through the Northlake databases. In the past, you were going to Academic Search Complete, Opposing Viewpoints, and CQ Researcher. You are not to use those databases because those databases are more primarily for arguments and subjects. You want literary criticisms. And when I use the word literary criticisms, I'm not meaning, it does not mean to criticize. It means to analyze, to interpret, to synthesize. So you want literary criticisms for this assignment. Two most prominent databases to find this information is Literary Reference Center and Literature Resource Center. Again, you can find these through the Northlake databases. And so Literary Reference Center looks similar to Academic Search Complete because it is housed within that big general database. So I put in my title and I use quotation marks because I want the search to find the entire title, not just parts of the title. So here's one. I've already done my search, and here's a book from Master Plot's poetry, and it's very student friendly, but it's also a work analysis. I can look in the abstract to see if there's something that will interest me, and see it talks about alcohol, dancing, drinking, drunkenness. So this may be something that interests me, so I'm going to go ahead and click into it to see if it fits what I am looking for. So here it gives some details about the poem. It gives some biographical information about Theodore Roth, but then it also gives me the specifics, some details that will help with my analysis. And so I think this will be a great source for my paper. And just by looking at it, it talks about the rhyme scheme. It talks about the mother's countenance, the movement of it, so everything, and it also gives me some of the themes and meanings. And again, this article may relate to how I interpreted it, but it may not, and that's okay. I have my interpretation. I just need information that helps to support what I'm trying to say about the various literary elements that he uses. So just by looking at this, this may be something that that may help to support my thesis. So I can use this as one of my examples. And if so, I can go to email, and I can email this article to myself, so that way I can have it later. One thing that I want you to know, that once you decide to email it to yourself, make sure you go over here and that you cite the format and you use MLA, so that way when you send the paper, you'll have the formatting so that you can use it later without having. So you make sure that your paper is cited correctly. So this is one that may be of interest to me, and here's another one that talks about the literary context in poetry. So again, this one may help me to understand the various poetic elements. But looking at the page number, it's only one page, so it may not offer as much detail. So as you start searching, you want to pay attention to how many pages, what type of analysis it is, and how what kind of information it will provide. One page may not be enough. You want something that's going to give you more details. Here's one. It is 5 pages, and it talks about the revisions and the tone. Again, this is something else that grabs my attention because in my paper I talk about word choice, and word choice helps to create tone. So this may be another article that may be of use for me. Okay, so the next database that I had mentioned was Literature Resource Center, And here it is. And this is, I love Literature Resource Center because it gives you these wonderful tabs at the top. Because I must provide some biographical information, I can click on biographies, and I can pull the biographical information about Theodore Roth here. And it should be very brief. It should not be very long, but just enough to give your readers some insight about the author. Okay, and then I'm going to go back over here to literature or criticism, and then I'm going to look to see, which of these articles that will provide adequate information for me. And you notice, because this is literature criticism, all these are going to be critical analyses of the poem My Papa's Waltz. So I'm going to click on the second one because I'm more interested in this one. So here it gives a little abstract. It says it can be interpreted many ways depending on the reader's own experience. And again, I had mentioned that previously. Oftentimes people see the whiskey and the romps, and they immediately think this idea of abuse, but it may not be. And again, that's what makes the poem so beautiful, is because people oftentimes want to see it as a negative connotated poem rather than a positive. So this one here gives various interpretations. So even though I thought it may be a great one, I don't really care about the many interpretations. I want something that focuses on the analysis part of it. So here's one that provides a stanza by stanza analysis. So this may be of some use. And again, I will have to read it to see how I could use it for my interpretation. But these are the two basic databases that you will need to use for this assignment. Okay. Now, once I've found my sources, then I'm going to begin drafting my paper. I am going to create a new lecture series that will cover how to build your analysis from finding your sources, and integrating your quotes and using just enough without it being overwhelming, a summary, but a true analysis. So you're going to build your outline first and then start trying to find sources. Do not try to find sources and then build an outline, because when you do it that way, that's where we have problems with misinterpretations and plagiarism and all of that. So go through the process, read the text, analyze it, come to your interpretation, build your outline, and then start searching for sources that will support your analysis. Again, you're looking for sources that help to support your analysis, not to make it. And again, I will create another lecture series that will cover moving from the research to actually drafting the paper. So there are more details to come. I hope this is helpful. And if you have questions, remember, you can always contact me, and I'm happy to help.